Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host, N64 Josh, and it's Wednesday, and you can't spell Wednesday without NES. So that's why we do NSO games, right? It all makes sense in my head. No, but it's a focus on retro games, and we have one of the, I would say, one of the best retro games ever tonight with Tetris on Game Boy. So super excited to jump into this one. I actually haven't picked next week's game yet, so we'll have to pick it before the end of the show. I see Nadine is here. What is going on? People are rolling in as we speak, and yeah, we're gonna discuss Tetris for the game of the week. I had a good time with this one, so here we go. It's on Game Boy. Came out in 1989. And it is one of the most legendary puzzle games ever made. One of the most important video games in history. And of course, we're talking about Tetris on the Game Boy. I see gaming since the 80s is here. What's going on? Well, come on in. Now, I know a lot of you have played Tetris at some point, maybe on a phone, maybe on the NES, or even the Switch. But there's something special about the 1989 Game Boy version. This is the one that launched a system. Tetris wasn't just a good game. It was the killer app for the Game Boy. And believe it or not, it was born behind the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain. Uh-oh. Chat is already messing with me. Here we go. Did I mess up? I don't even remember. Did I think I did. I think I ended up starting over. So yeah, I messed up on level 0. There we go. Calling me out right now. Calling me out right now. So Cocky Kev says DK reviews are going bonkers. Tetris was my Game Boy. Yes. So good. So keeping it going here. So like I said, it was created from behind the Iron Curtain. Tetris was originally created in 1984 by Alex Pechinov, and I think I said his name correctly, a Soviet software engineer working at a research center in Moscow. Quick side note, you guys, if you have Apple TV, watch the movie. It's so good. I love biopics, you know, like the founder, that kind of stuff. Tetris is super good. Like it's really, really good. Of course, it's got some, you know, Hollywood, like I'm sure they fudge the story a little bit to make it more exciting, but it's worth a watch. And you get the general idea based on a true story. You know how it goes. So he wasn't trying to start a gaming revolution. He was just messing around with puzzle concepts on a Soviet mainframe. And from that, he created one of the most elegant and addicting games of all time. And here's where it gets wild. As word of Tetris spread, multiple companies in the West started trying to claim the rights. Atari wanted it, Mirrorsoft wanted it, even Tengen released a version. But technically, nobody outside the USSR had the proper licensing, so it turned into a legal arms race. Nintendo stepped in, played it smart, and locked down the handheld rights, just in time to bundle it with the Game Boy's global release. The decision changed everything. Before Nintendo bundled Tetris with the Game Boy, they were planning to ship with Super Mario Land. But Minoru Arakawa, the head of Nintendo of America, realized Tetris had a much broader appeal. This wasn't just a game for kids, it was a game for everyone. And it worked. Tetris sold the Game Boy. It showed up in classrooms, offices, waiting rooms, even on military bases. It didn't matter who you were. Once those blocks started falling, you were hooked. Gameplay-wise, simple. And that's the magic. Rotate blocks, clear lines, survive. The Game Boy's small screen didn't hurt the experience. It actually made it tighter. Everything was focused, and that music. Hirokazu Tanaka's Type A theme is one of the most iconic tracks in gaming history, and it's based on a Russian folk song. And once you've heard it, it lives in your head rent-free forever. And I love Type A. Type A is probably my choice. You guys have to let me know which music you're going with, but Type A is typically the one I'm picking. Now let's talk legacy. Tetris is still played competitively today. The Game Boy version is legendary, and it introduced so many people to gaming, especially adults who never touched a controller. It's often called a perfect game, and honestly, it might be. No bugs, no paddling, just pure gameplay that holds up 35 years later. So, here are a few fun facts before we just chat about our experience with the game. Tetris was the first game packed in with a handheld console that appealed to a general audience, not just gamers. The original version didn't have graphics, just letters forming the shapes. The Game Boy version has a secret rocket launch animation when you win, which is very true. That was a huge driving force to continue playing, just to see the rocket launch. And yes, the Tetris effect is real. People have actually dreamed of falling blocks after long play sessions, and that's crazy. That's crazy. So let's jump into Tetris. All right, that's kind of the history of it. Let's talk about our history with it. I've mentioned plenty of times Christmas morning or Christmas evening, 1989. My aunt and uncle bought Game Boys as their gifts, and for each other. They got cases. They went all out. They went all out. The cases for them, the AC adapters, a handful of games, Solar Striker, Mario. I think Solar Striker was out then. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check, but I remember playing it early on. I can't remember if Alleyway was a launch game. I'd have to look up all the lists, but for sure I remember playing Tetris that night and hooking up playing with with the link cable, which made it so fun. Just so fun. Now, to be perfectly honest, I was a little bit indifferent about Tetris when it first came out because I'm like, oh, this is just a boring puzzle game. But it still got its hooks in me because I wanted to adventure, rescue the princess, all that kind of stuff. I did a write-up on n64josh.com if you want to dig a little bit deeper, but it was a game that I was like, I don't know that I love this right off the bat, but then I was hooked. And the rockets, like, do you guys remember the first time you did decent and then you'd get this tiny little rocket, but then if you started doing really, really well, the rocket would get bigger and bigger and bigger. It was a really kind of a cool incentive to keep playing. And it was one of the things that kept me playing. And I think only maybe only 80s and 90s kids will relate to this, but there was something about cutscenes, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, with Ninja Gaiden, right? That game was all about the cutscenes and kind of revolutionized cutscenes. It was more than just Toad saying, "Thank you, Mario, but your princess is in another castle." And getting to see the silly rocket in Tetris, it was well, how big do they get, right? They dangled that carrot. So you get to play this really fun game, but then you also get to see rockets. And that was a big deal. So I want to grab some of the chats here. Gaming Since the 80s says, have you seen the video of a kid that reached a kill screen in Tetris and the creator contacted him to congratulate him? Yes, that's crazy. That it was so crazy when that happened. Cryptic says Tetris is a favorite pastime. It's evolved so much with so many iterations that I forgot you couldn't hold pieces in this version. So used to just playing Tetris 99. And the great thing about Tetris 99 is they have this skin. You can play Tetris 99 with this skin, which is what I typically play with. It was just immediately nostalgia. The moment I was able to get this skin in Tetris 99, that's what I played with. But I will say, although you can't make pieces fall super fast by hitting up on the D-pad, I still love this version. Like I really enjoy this version. The game has evolved over time, and they tried to do like Tetris 2, you know, and there's Tetris Attack, which really isn't Tetris at all. And just the kind of the OG base game has withstood the test of time and is still just so good to this day. And that's saying something, because like not a lot of games can do what this game did, to have such a wide audience. Like I remember my parents getting to play the Game Boy version, and then they were like, well, how can we get this without having to buy Game Boys? And then we had this on the NES as soon as we were able to get it, and they would play, like, it's probably the game my parents played the most. And somebody said Rue said Tetris is a boomer's favorite game. So there you go. Is this Cryptic's asking, is this the version people use for competitive? I think it's the NES. So I did a little bit of I wanted to get a little more history with Tetris. It's crazy, you guys. I can't reach my NES controller, otherwise I'd pull it up and show you. But there are ways that people play Tetris on the NES. They basically sit with their foot up, and they rest the controller against it, and instead of pressing the buttons like with your thumb, you keep your thumb pressed to the D-pad, and they use their fingers on the backside of the controller so they can get inputs in faster, so that they can essentially move the pieces when they're at high level in a way that would not be possible with just your thumb. Like to just try to hit it with your thumb isn't possible. And Nate said Josh can't get up because no pants. No, I have my headphones. It's the corded headphones. So I highly recommend going and checking it out, guys. Like looking at NES Tetris, like world records and runs. Like I've had people come through my streams that are like, yo, I play in like a Tetris club every week. I think it was in Canada. Like it's a huge, like, I don't know if like cult following is the way to put it, but like there's a pretty big community that's still very active. All the way back to like the NES. And of course you've got Tetris 99, Tetris Effect came out not that long ago. I think there was another I think it was was it Tetris Forever? It just came out on the Switch like last year, I believe. And what's really, really cool, what I recommend watching the movie is just to really get some of the, like, you still get, you know how bioflicks are, like the end of the movie, you get the, like where they are now and what they're doing. And it's just, this was literally a life-changing game for the developer, and all of the right pieces had to fall into place. And I didn't even mean for that to sound as cliche as it did, but it literally was the case. And it did, for him to like change his life based on this simple yet complex little game that we all know and love as Tetris. And it's honestly a beautiful thing. It's very, very inspiring. So again, highly recommend the movie. There's probably some documentaries on YouTube and stuff like that if you don't have Apple TV, but it's definitely worth a watch. Okay. Backing up here. Sunshine says, I come in as he's talking about rockets getting bigger. Here we go. Yep. Leave it to me. Cocky Kev says, me and my brother both got it that Christmas. We couldn't see it that evening on our way to the Christmas. Oh, right. You could not see it in the car. Like, Brawler has mentioned this numerous times, like playing Game Boy, like waiting for the next street light and hoping the light was red, right? So that you could see just a little glimpse. And then, you know, if you wanted to go full, like all out, you had like the Light Boy speakers. It was barely portable at that point. Like it was just this monstrosity of a system, but so like just so 80s, so 90s. I love that. I loved it. Like it was such a fun time. And it was for me, it was one of those games that like I really, really wanted uh my own Game Boy, but I just never got one. It wasn't until I was 19, I think, I got a Game Boy Color, the green one. And still have a copy of Tetris DX that, that was one of the first games I bought. I bought Pokemon Yellow and Tetris DX and Mario Golf, I think. I'm pretty sure. Or else Tetris DX was shortly after, like it might have been right at launch. So but definitely a great, like I begged Santa for a Game Boy. Even asked my mom recently. I'm like, why didn't you get me when they didn't seem like super expensive at the time? And she said it was just finances. Like it wasn't possible at that time. Which I totally get. I also was like, are you sure you didn't want me just not to like be playing at all hours of the night without supervision? She said that may have been a factor. So you know how it goes. And a quick funny story. I think I've mentioned it on here. Years ago, I interviewed my uncle and had him come on the show. And I've mentioned it a few times, but like they loved their Game Boys. Like these things, they put the Game Boys through the paces, right? And they at one point she was playing Tetris and like, was close to her high score or something along those lines. Something happened, of course, and she ended up losing. And she slammed the thing down on a glass table and just shattered the table with the Game Boy. Game Boy survived, but the table did not. So yeah, I lost in level 0 right there. High score of 131. So you guys go ahead and harass me about that. I don't mind at all. Just kind of moving through the chat here. Nate says it's so crazy. Tetris is so old and did so well. I've always preferred it. I've always referred to it like it was a first party. So part of the reason I'm doing this game is because I recently watched while I was on vacation, I put the Tetris movie on. I was just chilling outside. Had a drink. It was the evening, nice warm evening. Threw the Tetris movie on my iPad, and then came in and I was like, I asked Jasmine, I'm like, hey, do you want to watch this? She's like, yeah, let's do it. So we watched it, right? Which then made me want to play the game. And one of the things that's so interesting, and I'll see if I can show you guys, is the intro screen, right? Where it's licensed by Bulletproof Software and sub-licensed to Nintendo. One of the things I love so much about that movie and about like console wars and getting into the history of these companies, we see everything that's consumer facing, right? In our minds, everything is just, roses and tulips and it's like it's a cutthroat business. Maybe it's not quite as much now. It doesn't seem like, but back then you're fighting for retail space. They had the crash of games. So like retail was not super fond of gaming. And you've got all these different factors when it comes to gaming and the suits and ties, like the behind the scenes stuff of like the way like Mortal Kombat, when they had to like do all the court hearings and, Nintendo's trying to show up like the hero of the family by not putting blood in their game. And then they just got taken to the cleaners when it came to sales, and then Mortal Kombat 2 comes out and, they're on stage talking about how they're going to have all the blood and everything. It's so funny how things can change so quickly and how the industry was just like the Wild West. And you really get a good understanding of how much it was like the Wild West when you watch this movie. It's super, super interesting to see just the inside baseball of, if you will, of of gaming. If you have Paramount Plus, Console Wars is another good one, to watch as well. So I want to keep cruising here. Cryptic says the only thing I can think of is Wii Sports, which everyone played as well. Yeah, honestly, like Tetris, Wii Sports, the similarities of like bridging generations and being kind of for everyone, very, very similar there. Rue says, in terms of addictiveness, Tetris is like Candy Crush before Candy Crush even existed. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Sunshine. Rue says there's a Tetris movie. Yes. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And it has the actor who was in the Kingsman movies, the younger kid from the Kingsman movies. He plays one of the executives and is kind of the main character. And it's just and for me, it's like, not only is it nostalgia because of Tetris, but I've also been to Russia twice. And so getting to see it on the big screen in areas that I've been to, stuff like that, it's just kind of cool, right? It was just a fun trip. So Sunshine says, Tetris honestly is one of those games. Once I start it, I just want to keep playing to beat my previous score. Then there's 3 hours later and I have no clue what just happened. That happened to me just playing this B-roll, and I only went for 15 minutes, but I was like, I was so annoyed at the fact that I didn't hit 40,000. Like, I wanted 40,000 so bad. And I ended up at 39 something, and I was like, I want to keep going, but I had to be responsible. And so I stopped playing, but I did. I had a really, really good time. To the like, I enjoyed it so much. I want to make sure that my Switch Lite is charged and ready to go next to the bed, so that I might jump in and play a little bit of Game Boy Tetris at each evening, or when I feel like it, at least, because it was I had such a fun time jumping back, and I love seeing it like on the big screen, right? Like, it's actually backlit. You can see it, it's not all dark. But just the sounds are so iconic. And I do want to mention, like, put headphones on, you guys, or if you have a decent like surround sound order, but play this game with headphones, because there's bass lines that I don't think you could really hear on the speaker of the Game Boy. And what's funny is I went and I didn't get a chance to post them, but I want to start posting commercials, and I still might. I might continue just promoting this episode through the end of the week. But one of the things when they're selling the Game Boy, they're like, it comes with stereo headphones, and like stereo was like the big deal. And it's just so funny to look back on, because now it's like, we need 3D surround sound and Dolby Atmos, or whatever, whatever the latest jargon is. But this is so old that just stereo was a good selling point. Rue's asking if the Tetris movie is on Disney Plus. It's on Apple TV, but you may also be able to rent it on like Amazon or something like that, or purchase it on like a Fandango at home, or Movies Anywhere, that kind of thing. I assume. I don't know for sure, but yeah, even if you just do a free trial of Apple TV and watch Tetris movie, it's so good. There's a few other shows on there that people really seem to like too, but Tetris movie is honestly fantastic. Just super, super good. So looking at the chat, Nadine says, my love for Sega commercials in the 90s is so real. Then 3DO, Atari Jaguar jumping in on it too. Such a good time. Sorry, off topic. No, perfectly on topic. I mean, I'm literally talking about the commercials. So I love that. I mean, even the catchphrase for the end of the podcast is "Play it loud." That was Nintendo's attempt to try and combat Sega and just the young hip image that they were, they were going for, getting those middle school and high school kids to play Sonic versus playing Mario. Play It Loud was their whole marketing campaign to try to reach that younger generation. And it's so funny, like looking back on all that stuff. And now it's somewhat corny, right? But back then that was the norm, and it was like it got you pumped up, got you wanting to play Nintendo games. So Nintendo competing was a woman in labor giving birth to a Game Boy. Yo, there was some weird stuff. Yeah, some weird stuff for sure. For sure. Like the just very, very strange. Very strange. But it was, I mean, it's also just such a fun, a fun time to look back on. And it was a fun time to live, honestly. Like to live through all this and being able to now look back on it. It always puts a smile on my face. And it's so cool learning, like I said, learning kind of that inside baseball of like, what happened within these companies behind the scenes. Because it like I said, it wasn't just it was cutthroat. It was very cutthroat. And if you get a chance to watch that movie, like I said, you'll get a good peek. And if you have, like I said, Paramount Plus, you can check out Console Wars as well. Or if you're a reader or you like Audible, you can get Console Wars on Audible as well. And I've had a few conversations with the author. He's super, super cool guy. So Cryptic says we need Game Boy Classic. We need a Game Boy Classic with this game. Yo, you are not wrong. Like it would be super cool. Have a Game Boy just kind of packed with a handful of these games. And it's, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with playing it on the Switch or anything like that, but you guys know how it is when you get to touch the original hardware or something that's similar to the original hardware, it just adds to the overall experience of what we lived through and how we remember it, which it's something special. I think it's part of it is that, it's the entire community, the physical collector community that's hanging on, wanting Switch 2 games to be physical and not card keys and all that stuff, because like that 30 years from now, when people are doing the Switch 2 games or the Switch 1 games that are on NSO, if that's even still a thing, they're going to be talking about Joy-Con drift and having to live through that. And it's just, it's sometimes we don't realize, right? Like we're living the good old days, or that like stuff that was kind of like really irritating, like not being able to see the Game Boy or the Joy-Con drift on the Switch. It added to the overall charm of it. Like not Joy-Con drift, that's super annoying, but like hearing Crawler talk about having to like find the right street lights, or I remember vividly borrowing a Game Boy. I can't remember who I borrowed it from. And it could have been my uncle, it could have been a friend, I don't know. I was a smooth talker, so I would somehow convince people to loan me their expensive electronics. I don't even know how. But like sitting in a specific chair, it had that farm print on it. I mean, I lived on a farm, and it, like, the lamp was the perfect lighting, sitting right by this chair. And that was the absolute best way to play this game. You just kind of kick your feet up and be able to experience the Game Boy in all of its glory. And I wasn't playing a ton of Tetris. I was playing Metroid 2 at that time, and honestly loving it. So chat is asking the age-old question of how old am I? I am the ripe young age of 44. So there you go. There's that. It's out there. It's in the wild. But no, guys, I really do appreciate you hanging out for this and chatting these games. I would like to take a quick, like, kind of a poll from chat. If you guys have any suggestions and any games that you would like to do this coming week, what I did this week is I'm kind of building a lot of content around these games, and I think we're going to change the name to the history of so it'd be like the history of Tetris NSO game of the week, right? And it's better for search and that kind of stuff. But I want to dive into the history of these games a little bit more and make it more than just our stories, but the stories that have to go along with these games. And so I'm doing a blog post on my site. There will be a classic like history of video, and but I also want to get the conversation going more in Discord and stuff like that. Like of you guys getting to play and maybe experiencing these for the first time. Like I'm still always pushing to get if you're listening to this after the fact and you're like, I can't be on the live show on Wednesdays at 7:30 Eastern, like jump in the Discord, throw your memories in, that kind of stuff. We have a game of the week section because I just want to share. I do want to share everybody's experience. Maybe it's playing it for the first time and getting to experience some of Nintendo's history, or maybe it's going back and reliving some of the nostalgia that we got to experience back then. So either way, I want to do a lot around this. And so the more you guys are involved and having fun with it, the better. Because I also don't want to put a bunch of effort into something that you guys aren't enjoying. I'm just trying to like constantly get a pulse of, what do you guys want to play? And NSO is something that's available to most people. I know, like if we did a GameCube game right now, it's not going to be, not going to be available for everybody. So we will do some expansion pack games and whatnot. And so I'm just curious if you guys have any suggestions here. I want to look at the chat real quick. Mako Eyes One says, I had the bulky magnifying glass. Yeah, the Light Boy. It was terrible and perfect for playing Donkey Kong Country. Oh yes. Yes. Brandon, what's going on? Welcome on in. Brandon says, well, how about A Link to the Past? I'm 39. This is that was my first Zelda experience. So the original Donkey, I'm seeing a few Donkey Kong suggestions. So, okay, so here's what we'll do. We did Donkey Kong Country 3. Let's do the Game Boy. Let's do Donkey Kong Country Land. And then next week, Brandon will do A Link to the Past, because I would love to get back into that one and talk some Zelda. And here's what we'll do. I'm giving you guys the advance on Link to the Past a week ahead of time, like 2 weeks out, because it's a longer game. So if you want to try to beat it, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best Zelda experiences you will ever have. Plus, we had the announcement of the cast, or at least some of the casting for the Legend of Zelda movie. So we'll do that, and then Cryptic, we could jump into Donkey Kong Country the following week after Link to the Past. So we'll do Donkey Kong Land on Game Boy. That'll be fun. Do another Game Boy game, kind of to celebrate the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza, and then a Zelda game, and then another Donkey Kong game. So what I'm planning on doing, guys, is putting a poll up, and we will kind of vote a month in advance, so we know every game that's coming out. For the very reason that if it is a Zelda game, or it's a game that's like longer, if you want to jump in, you don't only have a week to do it, and you can spend a little more time with it. So, let's see. Quick question here. No, Brandon, I'm excited to. Are we doing NPC tomorrow night? Yes. Tomorrow night. I'm sorry. I am on the Nintendo. What's it called? Now I can't remember. I think it's the Nintendo Byte podcast with Nintendo Prime. I'm on that show tonight in 30 minutes. So, but I will be rebroadcasting right here on YouTube if you're watching this show live. So, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for playing some Tetris and going down memory lane. For me, next week, I played a little bit of Donkey Kong Land, but not a ton. And so I would say stay tuned to YouTube and TikTok, the socials and whatnot, because I am trying to like find old advertisements to post on like Instagram. I'm trying to find old commercials for these games to repost on my TikToks and YouTube shorts. And once I really feel like I have this kind of down to a well-oiled machine, there's going to be a barrage of content behind each one of these games, just because there's so much history there. And I'm kind of a history buff when it comes to gaming. So it's a lot of fun for me to dig this stuff up. So, guys, my friend code, my list is currently full right now. And I don't have it just off the top of my head either. So, but we like jump into the Discord, chat there. And like I said, last night, I just posted in the Discord, hey guys, I'm going to be playing games for a few hours if anybody wants to jump in. A few nights ago, I was just like streaming Mario Kart in Discord and chatting with people. So sometimes we're just hanging out that way. So a better spot to ask me about that kind of stuff is definitely there. And we'll see what I can do. So appreciate all of you so very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening after the fact. You guys are amazing. And remember, play loud.